You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for a new set of downs on Sunday.
Welcome, guys. Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. Today, we're in week 12 of the NFL season. Again, The three hosts, top left corner Josh, top right corner Derek, and down in the middle, it's me, Toby. And of course, to start off, we're going to have a quick recap of the games that were last week. And yeah, one thing that stood out for me, and Derek, we talked about this before we started recording here. There were 11 games this week that were decided by 5 or less points. The only two games that were decided by more than 5 points were between the Colts and the Saints. And of course, we're going to talk about these teams later. But yeah, what are you guys take from this week in the NFL?
All right, I'll start it off. Again, I apologize for anyone that watches this. My camera's a little behind. Just try not to pay attention too much to it. Like Toby said, we were talking about it. The Colts and the Saints, the only two teams that put together enough offense to just blow out their teams. And I mean, you're right. There was a lot of good games. I was definitely surprised by the Panthers getting pretty much manhandled by the Lions most of the game.
Yeah.
Josh was correct yet again when it came to his Broncos pick.
Yeah.
He got lucky. I don't know how many times the Broncos have to get a game-winning field goal to win games at the end, but, that just happens. Raiders get their second win of the season. Josh and I were correct with our Bears pick. The defense was just a little too strong for the Vikings. The Chiefs and Rams game looked much more like a Big 12 conference championship game. Yeah. No defense involved at all, except for a few turnovers that went their way, and just straight offense. Third highest game, scoring point game in the history of the NFL to date. That's my recap of this week.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Josh.
My recap kind of follows the same way as Derek's. I'm just surprised that the Lions pulled something together to beat the Panthers by 1. I mean, Cam Newton had what's-his-face in the end zone right there to get the touchdown or the lead. And he just totally botched it.
Well, that's Cam Newton when he throws it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Slings it and just hopes it gets there.
Yeah.
But let's see. What else? Yeah. The minute I saw that Broncos game, Derek, I texted you immediately saying, how about that Broncos pick? And what did you say to me? Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Yeah. I think I'm justified in saying that I got that was the best pick because again the Broncos always have that one game where they just come out of nowhere when you think they're going to lose and they end up winning it.
But the Broncos have done this a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, just winning by 3 points or something with a last-second field goal.
Yeah. And the Saints and Eagles game went the way I did not expect it to go at all. Shout out to my brother Noah, who had Carson Wentz end up with 2.5 points in fantasy.
Well, not a good start this week.
Yeah, that was an embarrassment on the Eagles' part there. I had never seen Carson Wentz just so flustered and just throwing random grab balls just out of nowhere. And Marshawn Lattimore got his first interception of the season.
Yeah, he got the first interception of the season. It was well-deserved.
Yeah, and overdue.
Yeah, it was overdue. Yeah, he performed pretty well in the last couple of weeks. But I'm going to get to that later in my Saints segment. But, yeah, you got anything else? Josh, you want to?
I just got to say that if the Chiefs and the Rams game, that was ridiculous. That's as if two people decided, hey, let's play Madden, and it turned out as an actual game. That's all it was.
Yeah, but Madden on the easiest mode.
Oh, yeah, rookie mode.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm just surprised the Rams pulled it off. I mean, Mahomes was just tearing them apart through the air, and somehow, some way, they still got it done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, my takes for this week, I also got to go into Carolina at Detroit because I think that's a very important game for the playoffs that are starting in a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about that later as well on the podcast. But yeah, the Carolina Panthers, of course, they were trailing a lot in that game, and the Detroit Lions had the control of the game for most parts of the game. But then Carolina missed a field goal from 34 yards in the third quarter. They missed a PAT in the fourth quarter and failed to convert a two-point conversion also in the fourth quarter. So it should have been an easy win for Carolina, but they just failed to make the easy points with a short field goal and a PAT, which would have won them the game. Another game that Derek already talked about is the Oakland Raiders and the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know who watched that game. I had it on my second screen, but it was terrible to watch. It was barely watchable. Two terrible teams right now in the league. But yeah, the Raiders won, but I actually think the Raiders hurt themselves by winning that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to talk about that later as well in the podcast. A lot of points that I'm going to touch on later here. But of course, I got to talk also about that ridiculous game on Monday night between the Chiefs and the Rams. And for me, that game can only be described in 3 words with what a game. Over 1,000 yards of total offense, 105 points, the first time in the history of the NFL that both teams score over 50 points. And then there's Patrick Mahomes with 5 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, and 2 in the final minutes of the game that could have decided the game for the Chiefs, and 2 fumbles, one of which was also for a touchdown. So in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion as well, as I've heard for now, actually the Chiefs are the better team even after losing to the Rams, because with 5 turnovers and a turnover ratio of +3, the Rams should have won with more than 3 points there. It's ridiculous that they only had a 3-point win there when they scored 2 defensive touchdowns and still have 2 more interceptions and 2 more fumbles in there. For me, the Chiefs are the better team right now over the Rams. And one thing I have to add here, that one thing that I said last week in the podcast during our prediction last week for week 11 actually. If you haven't watched that episode or haven't listened to it, I would strongly advise you do that. But I actually said that for the Chiefs and Rams game, I predicted, as we all did, that the Chiefs would win. But I also predicted that Tyreek Hill would have 200 yards and 2 touchdown receptions in that game. And yeah, you guys really didn't believe that would happen back then. But he actually went up me a little bit. He got 10 receptions for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. But
I felt it on fantasy. Tell me about it.
You have it on fantasy. I told you last week. I like Tyreek Hill in fantasy, and you're going to like him this week. So my prediction came through on that one. I just want to mention it. Even with me not being good at predicting winning teams, I actually can predict what a player can do in a game. Okay, so now we have the recap of Week 11. It's your guys' time with a recap of the Colts.
Josh, you want to start this one off?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to. Let's see now. The Titans were favored, or I guess shouldn't have said favored, but they are second place in the AFC South, and people said, oh, they're on a roll because they beat Tom Brady. And in all honesty, they just couldn't even do anything. I can't even think of the words. That's how embarrassing it was to watch them play.
Yeah.
Shut down.
I mean, Andrew Luck against the Titans, as you said, Derek, is still undefeated against them. They still can't find a way to beat Luck when he's in there. And they just even showed it, because when I looked at the halftime score, I saw 24-3, or no, 24-3, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're actually in the lead by a huge margin for the first time this season. I hope we don't blow it, and we didn't. Towards the end, we let them have that one touchdown, but in all honesty, the Titans just got shown up by the Colts, who or not like from my standpoint, but by other people said that they should have beat us handedly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and just, all my excited energy is gone. I said it last week. The Colts were going to win by 2 scores. Sure enough, that's what happened. ESPN now ranks the Colts as the 12th best team in the NFL compared to 21st last week. They're now understanding just how potent this offense is for the Colts. The Colts offense over the last 5 weeks is now the 4th best offense in the NFL, only behind the Rams, the Chiefs, and the Saints. O-line, 214 consecutive snaps of no sacks. Andrew Luck has been hit a grand total of 4 times in the last 4 games. Absolutely insane. Now, the one thing that does suck about that game, the one and only bad thing, Ryan Kelly is injured with the same knee that he's had issues with before. It's saying that he will not be out the whole season, but he could possibly miss a couple weeks with that knee injury. It is a blow to the offensive line, but I don't think it's going to be as dreadful as people say it is. I would have rather him get hurt than Quentin Nelson and Anthony Costanzo at this point. But I don't think it's going to slow down the momentum. The Colts have been insane. This week, almost everything went right. If the Texans had lost that game against the Redskins, which they almost could have, then every single possible good thing that could have happened to the Colts this week in regards to the playoff push happened this week, and which we'll get to later on in the podcast. But yeah, again, the defense shut down the offense of the Titans. The Titans came in averaging over 100 yards per game in rushing. The Colts held them to under that for only the second time so far this year. Sacked the quarterback 4 times in this game. Marcus Mariota obviously didn't second half due to a hand injury, but it's not like that would have saved the Titans either way. And the Colts just looked like a team possessed. Everywhere you looked, they were ready to go. Darius Leonard had himself another huge game, which is another candidate for why he deserves to be Rookie of the Year, given his stats and what he has done for the defense so far. But again, I can't give enough credit to Chris Ballard and to Frank Reich. These two are literally hitting gold. The draft is showing why it's so valuable. We have rookies that are looking like absolute studs in the NFL right now. Frank Reich has a great game plan. And Toby, you and I talked about it yesterday.
Yeah. For
the offense for the Colts, the tight ends accumulated for 5 catches in that game.
Yeah.
5. Eric Ebron did not have a target.
Yeah.
He only tried that 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Mo Alley Cox did not have a target in that game. Jack Doyle had a couple catches for a couple good gains, but the whole game it was Jordan Wilkins a touchdown, a Marlon Mack touchdown, 2 touchdowns by T.Y. Hilton, who had a phenomenal game, by the way, and Dontrell Inman. So, again, I was talking to Toby. It was like, that wasn't by mistake. That was by design. They purposely went to the wide receivers to keep away from the tight ends because they knew the Titans defense was the number 1 pass defense in the NFL, allowing only 290 yards per game and allowed the fewest touchdowns to tight ends. They were going to put more pressure on the tight ends. And sure enough, that left T.Y. Hilton and a lot of these other receivers open to make big plays. I'm just so happy that the Colts are doing what they're doing right now. Colts Nation, enjoy it. Enjoy the success because right now, this is only the beginning.
Yeah, I got one last thing to say. How come nobody called the burn unit on Malcolm Butler? I mean, how many times did he get burned by T.Y. Hilton? I mean, it was
a couple times.
A couple of times, yeah. And, I mean, he didn't really look that good the entire season. It was just that one game against the Patriots, kind of his revenge game on Bill Belichick. But all the other games in the season. I think before the Patriots game, he actually gave up 7 touchdowns, which is at that point was the highest in the NFL. So,
I will say this: the defensive coordinator for the Titans had to leave mid-game due to a medical reason. I don't know the status of him right now, but you can only wish him good luck. It's not like, again, I'm not going to try to be mean about it. The Colts obviously destroyed him every way possible. But, of course, at the end of the day, there's a lot more to football than just football.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's back on the field and ready to go soon.
Yeah, I think that's from all of us here.
Yep.
But yeah, going from one success story with the Colts to the next one with the Saints. Of course, they played at home against the defending Super Bowl champion, the Philadelphia Eagles. And there was nothing much to see that the Eagles were actually the Super Bowl champions just about 9 months ago. They were absolutely manhandled by the Saints in that game with a score of 7-48 for the Saints, which I think is the biggest margin of a loss for a defending champion in the history of the NFL. And,
well, I mean, hey, that first play, Mark Ingram, 33-yard rush, that showed exactly how that night was going to go.
Yeah, it showed exactly how that night was going to go. And Mark Ingram is running with some anger, and that's always when Mark Ingram performs the best. And yeah, you guys know I like my numbers, so I got a couple of stats here from the game. And of course, I got to start off with Drew Brees here. Again, he didn't start that good on passing. He had a couple of passes that didn't really hit the target to begin the game, but he still finished with 22 completed passes with 30 attempts for 363 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 153.2. And yeah, talking about the passer rating, I mean, there is a conversation whether Patrick Mahomes or Drew Brees should be the MVP this season. And I can't give you one number why Drew Brees is the clear favorite for me. And that's the average passer rating for Drew Brees in the month of November so far through 3 games against the Rams, the Bengals, and the Eagles. 3 teams that are not bad at all, that are somewhere in the midfield of the league, or with the Rams, one of the top teams in the NFL. He has an average passer rating of 149.9. Patrick Mahomes is nowhere near that level. So for me, Drew Brees is the clear favorite to win the MVP award this year. But some other stats that I have for the game as well is actually Michael Thomas was not the favorite target of Drew Brees in that game at all. Michael Thomas only had 4 receptions on 4 targets, 92 yards and 1 touchdown. But the number 1 target in this game for the Saints was rookie Traquan Smith. Of course, he got kind of famous with catching Drew Brees' pass for surpassing Peyton Manning in passing yards against the Washington Redskins. But he got 10 receptions on 13 targets for 157 yards and 1 touchdown. And yeah, one more stat that stood out to me is Marshawn Lattimore, who had his first interception of the season in this game, which is well-deserved and far less than many of us were expecting from him this year. But everybody's always talking about how the Saints are a great rushing defense, but are one of the worst passing defenses in the league. But there is one stat right now for Marshawn Lattimore in the last 2 weeks against the Bengals and the Eagles. Marshawn Lattimore only allowed 1 pass, which was against the Eagles, for 3 yards in 2 games.
Shutdown mode.
Yeah, complete shutdown. So if you're a team and playing against the Saints, or in fantasy, number 1 receivers for the other team, and Marshawn Lattimore is shadowing your guy, don't start him. Plain and simple.
Yeah, totally don't. Yeah. I think it's safe to say, Toby, that if you're the Saints or you're the Colts, you are one of the 2 teams that nobody wants to face in the NFL.
Yeah, you don't want to face the Colts and the Saints right now. And actually, I gotta go back to the Colts. That's one thing I forgot. Derek, you talked about the Colts being ranked 12th by ESPN right now, but I don't think 12th is really cutting it for the Colts. For me, the Colts are a low-end top 10 team in the NFL right now. I know we don't do the power rankings this week, but definitely the Colts for me are in the top 10 teams in the NFL right now, and they're ESPN is ranking in the 12th. I would rank them higher, but yeah, that's now done with our teams. And yeah, we have talked about the NFC East last week, and out of given circumstances with the Alex Smith injury for the Washington Redskins, we kind of have to talk about it again, how it affects the NFC East. And it's a close division right now. I think everybody still has the chance to win the division there. So, yeah, what do you guys think? How is the NFC East going to play out?
Well, first, prayers up to Alex Smith, man. I mean, what a horrific injury that was happening. And not to mention the 33rd anniversary to date of Joe Theismann getting the same exact injury. And Joe Theismann being at the game. As unfortunate as circumstances as that was, and really hope.
And not even that. The coincidences go further. The game had the same exact score that the game did 33 years ago.
Again, yeah, like whether you're not ironic or coincidence, whatever it is. I mean, you only hope that Alex Smith can come back from that, because he was having a terrific season. Maybe not amazing in numbers, but he was clearly leading the Redskins to potentially the #1 spot in the NFC East before this injury. And now, due to this injury, since the Washington Redskins are now signing former butt fumble quarterback Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed that, Josh.
I know, but I just got to say really quick, remember, Mark Sanchez deserves a little bit more credit, because I'm going to say it right now, he beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in the playoffs.
Yes, but that was also, what, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
We don't care about that.
It's still there. It's still there.
Yeah, how long ago was it that he threw his last pass in an actual NFL game? He was out of the game so long now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's like, again, it's that you're replacing a good quarterback and you have no good alternative. And the quarterback position is the most important one. It's not like you're losing a couple others, but I mean, let's think about it. The Washington Redskins are 6-4. The Dallas Cowboys are 5-5.
Yeah.
The what do we got? And then the Giants, obviously, I think the Giants are out of this point, unless they go insanely red hot, which I don't believe they will.
I mean, they are only 2 games behind the Dallas Cowboys right now.
True. They got 3. But, again, the Eagles are 4-6. We don't know whether or not they're going to make a comeback or not. But at this point, the clear favorite to win it at this moment is the Dallas Cowboys, because of just how cohesive they've looked as a unit. The offense has actually played very well, and obviously the Eagles are struggling to find themselves right now. The Washington Redskins are going to slip in the power rankings. I do not believe they will win the division because they're just without a quarterback. I do believe ultimately the Cowboys or the Eagles will be a toss-up on who wins the NFC East. But it's still, like Toby said, it's still a toss-up. You know, any one of these teams can win. Washington can lose every game from this point on. The Eagles could win a couple. The Cowboys could win a couple. The Giants could win the majority of the rest of their games and somehow find a way to do what they're doing. And again, Toby, I didn't mention it in my recap. You and I were correct when we said Saquon Barkley was going to go for over 200 yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, had 150 rushing, over 100 in receiving. They're obviously finding their groove offensively. They're not super great right now, but they're finding their groove. Again, the Washington Redskins, I think at this point are done. I do not believe they have a chance of getting it because of their quarterback situation, but I would love to see what you guys think about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just.
My heater just turned on, so I want to make sure.
Yeah. I'm just gonna give a quick break here. I can't. I just have to edit that one out.
Yeah.
So, Josh, you want to go first?
Yeah. So I definitely think that with the loss of Alex Smith, it's definitely going to go to the Cowboys in this instance here, because I just think that they've got everything that it takes to win the championship, or not the championship, but the NFC East, and claim the number 1 spot, because they're, like Derek said, a nice cohesive unit.
Yeah.
I mean, Leighton was it Vanderhorn?
Vander Esch.
Vander Esch, yeah. Leighton Vander Esch is looking pretty good for the middle linebacker because Sean Lee is getting hurt. And that's the whole reason they drafted him, just so that when Sean Lee goes out, they're not left in the open without a middle linebacker. But I just think that the Redskins can win a few. They're not going to lose out the season. I don't think that's possible for them to lose out the season. But the Giants you can tell they're about ready to move away from Eli Manning regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless. It's the writing's on the wall for Eli. I think he's done, and at least in New York. Mm-hmm. I can actually see him going to the Redskins at the end of the season for like a few draft picks. Because I think
that one's a stretch.
Yeah. I probably think he's more a candidate for the Jaguars, but that's not the topic right now.
Yeah, but who knows? With the way that Darnold's playing, he might go to the other New York team.
Yeah, but the Jets already said that they see their future in Darnold. So,
all right. Well, sticking back in the NFC East, I don't know why I decided just to go to other divisions with that one. But let's see, the Eagles. I'm not counting them out yet. I just think that they just lost. Like they just kept getting injury riddled, and they just can't get back together with that. That's why I'm just saying that the Cowboys have the makings to take the number 1 position in the NFC East. They're just a more cohesive unit.
Yeah, I see it the same way right now. I think the Cowboys are right now the favorite to win the division, especially after they got into a groove in the last 2 weeks after they added Amari Cooper at wide receiver. I think that was one of the additions that really helped them out, and that Dak Prescott more comfortable there to kind of have that one target that he didn't have at the beginning of the season, because neither Allen Hurns nor Michael Gallup or any of the other additions from the offseason helped him out in any way. But yeah, we talked about that the Redskins are signing Mark Sanchez, but it looks like that Mark Sanchez is actually just a backup quarterback to Colt McCoy, and they actually start Colt McCoy next week.
Yeah.
So, but Colt McCoy, he had kind of a decent game against Houston, but I don't think that he can keep that level of production, especially on the ground, in the next coming weeks, because I think it was just that Houston was just not prepared to play against Colt McCoy, who's more the new era of quarterbacks, but who is running the ball more, compared to Alex Smith, who is just more of a kind of pocket passer. So they were kind of more prepared for the pass and not for the QB sneak or QB run. So for me, I think the Redskins will have it tough in the coming weeks, and I don't see the Redskins winning the division. I think they might actually make it to the second spot in the division still. I don't see the Philadelphia Eagles overtaking them right now, especially with the injuries that they have in their defensive backfield, because about everybody is out. I think they had nobody on the bench against the Saints after the one injury in the first or second quarter. I can't quite remember. But they didn't have any more cornerbacks or safeties on the bench for the rest of the field. I don't know what they would have done if anyone else got hurt there. But so for me, the Eagles, I don't give them a chance anymore on taking the division. Same for the Giants. They are hot right now, but unless they pull off a huge miracle, I don't see the Giants there. For me, it's Redskins, Cowboys, and Redskins without Alex Smith. I just don't see them getting past the Cowboys right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our take on the NFC East, and I talked about it before. That the Oakland Raiders actually hurt themselves by winning, and that was because of the draft next year. And right now, I know Week 11 is a bit early for a draft projection, but we're gonna do one anyway. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you're gonna see the projected draft order after Week 11 on your screen right now. The first pick right now would be with the San Francisco 49ers with a record of 2-8. Same record at the second spot are the Arizona Cardinals. The third team at 2-8, but with the weakest strength of schedule, are the Oakland Raiders. And at number 4, New York Jets with a record of 3-7. And New York Giants rounding out the top 5 picks, also with a record of 3-7. There are also 3 other teams currently with a record of 3-7, which are the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Buffalo Bills. So guys, go ahead, give us your draft projections. How are the top 5 picks? Which team is gonna have them, and who you think that they're gonna draft?
Yeah, Josh, do you want to go with this first, or do you want me to go?
You go first.
All right, awesome. Let's get started with this. I did a little bit of research on the 49ers, the Cardinals, and the Raiders picks, or games for the rest of the season. I had the 49ers best case scenario and Cardinals best case scenario finishing 4-12, the both of them. And I had both of them finishing with a record of 3-13 to my liking. The Raiders I had as the third pick. Best case scenario for them, I think, is 5-11, and I think that they finish 4-12. The Jets are my fourth pick. I think that ultimately, they're limited on offense, and I think for the fifth pick, I do not believe the Giants will stick around for that long. I believe that the Buffalo Bills will find a way to come back down because of still their issue with their quarterbacks. And again, I mean, you look at some of these games that some of these teams play. 49ers, they got to face some really good teams. Yeah. The Cardinals have to face the Chargers, the Packers, and a couple of other teams. I know the 49ers and the Cardinals both have to play the Rams later on this season, so that's a definite loss. Again, I think the first 3 are almost a solidified. These 3 teams are going to stay in there, and it's hard to tell which one's going to stay where, but I think those 3 are definitely going to stay. I would definitely say the 49ers will go – whoever the first 3 is, if it's the Raiders, the 49ers, and the Cardinals, they will go with Nick Bosa, the first pick of the NFL draft, whichever one of them are, because – I mean, let's be honest. The Jets, the Raiders, the Cards, and the 49ers all believe they have their quarterback.
Yeah.
And at this point,
the Raiders not so much.
The Raiders not so much. I do believe John Gruden believes that Derek Carr is his guy. But that's either here nor there. But you're seeing this year specifically how much of an impact a defensive lineman is having. The 2 highest paid players at the defensive position ever are playing in the NFL right now, Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald, both of them having tremendous seasons for their team. I think, like you said, Nick Bosa and Ed Oliver are definitely the 2 guys that you want to think about the most. If the Bills come down, the receivers are definitely going to be up for grabs on that one. But, yeah, those are my top 5s who I think are going to finish the year at the bottom of the NFL.
All right.
Yep. Let's see. Personally, I really like. Well, not really like. I should just say that it's pretty much going to more than likely stay the same as what it was, as it already is, majority of the way through.
Yeah.
I just think that the Raiders may fall further down, even though they beat the Cardinals. I just think that the Cardinals can still scrounge up enough wins to pass the Raiders, even though I'm pretty sure the Cardinals think that this season's already done, which it is for them. Anyway, I still think that the Niners are still going to be the number one pick in the NFL. I just think without, let's see, Garoppolo. I think I'm.
Yeah.
God, I'm stumbling my words. I'm so excited to talk about this. But I just think without Garoppolo, they're just not going to win. As much as I like the guy that came from the same college as Brett Favre, he just looks like a nice dude you want to get to know. I think that he can at least get 2 wins out of the remaining season. I just think that without Garoppolo, again, just to reiterate the point, they just can't win. And let's see. I got the Raiders at 2 because I just think that it was just a fluke that they won.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have won that one, yet they did. I don't know why Gruden was so happy, as if his job was on the line, which it kind of is and kind of isn't after giving him 100.
It's not really. With that contract, you can't fire a coach.
Oh, yeah. It was $100 million for 10 years.
Yeah, you can't fire him after one season. There's no way.
Yeah.
As much as all of Oakland Nation wants that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if he actually lost the game, which I don't know if you're done yet, Josh, but I'm going to touch on that with my draft analysis. I think he had actually a good strategy on there, and I kind of saw what he was doing there with accumulating the draft picks, and I think with the first pick, if the Raiders have the first pick, I think he has a decent chance to get a good team next year.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So with that being said, like what you just said there, Toby, I do think the Raiders would draft Nick Bosa. I think that Gruden wants to have Raiders and have the best defense in the NFL coming next season. So I think you would want to start it with Nick Bosa, a pretty dominant defensive end coming off of the edge, just like his brother Joey's doing in LA.
Yeah.
And that's it for mine. I made him short.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I said it about the Oakland Raiders now, and my take was as well. If you're the Oakland Raiders, you're looking to get the first overall pick. You're getting Nick Bosa. You're paying him a rookie contract for 4 years, and you basically have someone that you can't just put in there that might actually be as good as Khalil Mack, and have a replacement for him for cheap for 4 years, and you can bring in other guys that are more expensive from other teams. I don't know, maybe sign Le'Veon Bell even. Why not? Why not bring in Le'Veon Bell, pay him $20 million a year? You have a good running back in there. Derek Carr might get more comfortable in there with a good running back, actually. Because, Marshawn Lynch, he's getting old. Doug Martin, he's not performing that well. He never really was. After 1 year with Tampa Bay, I think that he actually put up pretty good numbers. But, back to my draft order right now. For me, the first 4 teams right now in the draft order with the San Francisco 49ers, and Arizona Cardinals, Oakland Raiders, and the New York Jets are going to stay the same. My projection right now is that the 49ers, as well as the Cardinals, as well as the Raiders, are not winning any more games, and the Jets do neither. So the 49ers, Cardinals, and Raiders are finishing their season at 2-14. When I'm looking at their schedule, there might be one game in there that could go differently with the 49ers this week against Tampa Bay, but I'm having Tampa Bay winning that one just by an edge, especially that Tampa Bay is at home. But all the other games, the 49ers have to play twice against Seattle, against Denver, against Chicago, and the last game is against the LA Rams at LA. The Cardinals have to play against LA as well. They have to play against the Chargers, they have to play against the Packers, and they have to play against the Seahawks. The Raiders have to play twice against Kansas City. I don't see them playing any game. Okay, might be one other game that is winnable for one team that is up there in the draft picks right now with the Jets at Buffalo. But yeah, you have seen how the Jets against Buffalo went the last time, with Buffalo just blowing out the Jets at home. So I don't see any changes there. They're not going to win another game. But for me, the fifth position or the fifth draft pick is not with the Giants. I see the Giants winning 2 more games this year, ending up with a 5-11 record this season. And moving into the 5th spot are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, I don't know. They are struggling a little bit. Yeah, I'm giving them the win against the 49ers this week, which puts them at a record at the end of 4-12. But yeah, I think the Bucs are just. I'm seeing them number 5 right now.
You're bouncing between 2 quarterbacks, considering Ryan Fitzpatrick just got benched, and like you said, the defense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just bad right now.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Yeah, good point there, Derek. And actually, I was thinking about that. It looks like the best strategy for the Bucs right now is starting a quarterback and changing their quarterback at halftime. That's right now, I think, the best strategy for the Bucs. It's working. As soon as you put in a quarterback in the second half and bench the other one can play pretty decently at quarterback. But yeah, the Buccaneers definitely have a problem at QB. That's why my projection is that at number 5, they are picking a quarterback in Justin Herbert from Oregon because they just need another quarterback. Jameis Winston is not working out. Yeah, he was their quarterback for the future. Not anymore. I think it's time to move on from him and get a rookie QB. And Justin Herbert is the number 1 quarterback, I think, right now in that draft. But now going to the New York Giants, I think Ed Oliver will drop to them. I know he's not the best fit for the defense. The Jets are playing a 3-4 defense. Ed Oliver out of Houston is coming out of a 4-3 defense, but I think he has the athleticism of playing outside in a 3-4 defense to play at defensive end in that scheme. So, and he's just too good to pass for the Jets at that position. The Oakland Raiders at 3, I have going with a defensive end in Clelin Ferrell from Clemson. They just need a replacement for the outside rush for Khalil Mack. Ferrell probably won't be at that caliber of Khalil Mack, but they have pretty good inside linemen there, but they just need the pressure from outside a little bit more. At number 2, in Arizona, I got them picking Jonah Williams, offensive tackle out of Alabama. The Arizona Cardinals are kind of midfield in the defensive, in total defense right now in the NFL, but they are dead last in total offense, which is kind of weird because Josh Rosen was a quarterback that everybody was talking up to be a good quarterback in the NFL. You have one of the best running backs in there, and you still have pretty good receivers in there with Larry Fitzgerald. So I think the main problem there is the offensive line, so I think they're going to go with an offensive tackle to kind of protect their young quarterback and give David Johnson more room to run. And, of course, the number 1 pick, I think it's obvious. The number 1 pick, it doesn't matter who it's going to be, is going to be Nick Bosa. He's just the best player that comes in this draft class. And, yeah, San Francisco actually needs some pressure from outside. And Nick Bosa would be tremendous there. And, yeah, it would be a great fit for San Francisco. And it would actually be the best player in the draft as well in a position they actually need. So, right. Yeah, now we have our projected draft order. But before we are coming to the draft next year, we still have to go through the playoffs. And, yeah, Josh, you had a pretty good question a couple of days ago, I think it was, or yesterday, that I want to talk about. Should the NFL change the playoff format to a kind of college playoff format so that you have a committee that selects the team to take part in the playoffs? And to everybody who is listening right now, because we are an international podcast right here, who is not familiar with the playoff format in college. In college, they have a 13-member committee who selects and seeds the 4 teams to take part in the college football playoffs. The 4 teams play in 2 semifinal games, and the winner of each semifinal advances to the college football playoff national championship game, which crowns the national champion in college football. So, yeah, I think, Josh, as you brought up the question, why do you think the NFL should change to a college playoff format?
I think that if they were to change to a college football playoff format, I think you're going to have your pros and your cons. I already know that, because the Patriots could end up being like the Alabama of the National Football League, always being number 1, even though they really aren't. But I do think that this is kind of hard to like defend, because the way that the NFL is already at just shows you that if you're the better team, you're already in. But the same thing goes for the college football playoff, where as long as you're like in the top 4, you're fine. But the one that's always up for grabs is that number 4 spot, because that's always being replaced and refreshed left and right.
Yeah.
So if they were to switch that into a committee, I think that it would, I guess, slow it down because I mean, we're always used to having the question presented to us of, well, what if the college football playoff actually was like more like the NFL playoff, and where the 2 wild card teams, like I guess for college football, it'd probably be like your 5th and your 6th seed go up against the 3 and the 4 seed, and the winner goes on to play the 1 and the 2 seed, and then so on and so forth. I just think that a committee governing the NFL may actually be more fair than what the other teams deserve, because you could have a division that is just total garbage and still have like a champion. I'm talking about like the Panthers back when the NFC South was like trash a few years ago. Something like that, to like keep it so that if your team is like garbage and doesn't deserve to be in that lead spot, then you can put somebody else in there who's like willing to make it, like another like 3rd team in like the division of like another, I guess, of like another division. So instead of having it AFC, NFC, we just have one NFL, kind of like that.
All right. That's a good information, and it is, but I think a lot of times people are too quick to try and change something that's not broken. Let me ask you this. The only reason you would want to change the NFL format to the college football format is because you believe it gives you the better chance of having a better end product, which means, can we get a better Super Bowl? Now, please, I'm going to ask you, gentlemen, has there been a Super Bowl in the last 10, 15, 20 years that we've been alive that you can remember that said, these 2 teams don't belong here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like you can complain about it. Now, we'd say that the NBA is their format because we say the 5 best teams in the league, 4 of them are in the Western Conference. So it makes sense to try and change that because there's a lot more flexibility of trade and player movement in the NBA. There's not as much in the NFL. There's a lot more bargaining. There's a lot more competitive fairness, which is an actual term, by the way, that teams use. That's why there's a team salary, and it never really increases that much to keep it competitive between teams. I mean, we could say the Saints and the Rams, they're definitely 2 of the best teams. But then in the AFC, you have the Chiefs, you have the Patriots, and you have a couple of good teams that can make headway. Yeah. I don't think that there should be a change in the NFL just simply because the product is not broken. You've seen the last 3 years, every Super Bowl just seems to get better and better with the components that they play. I just don't think that it really needs a change.
Yeah, I have the same exact view. I don't think that the playoffs in the NFL are broken right now, so why fix them? But yeah, of course, the pros of it, I see them. You kind of have these games or can have the games in the wild card round when you have a bad division, like Derek said a couple of years ago with the NFC South when the Panthers went to the playoffs at a 500 record, I believe it was, because everybody just couldn't win games down there. And you could have them go up against, I don't know, a team that won their division, or against a wild card pick. Probably if you're the 4th seed, you're going up against number 5. And number 5 could easily be a team that has a record of 12-3 if they are in a strong division right now. And then you have a team that is 12-3 over the entire season going against a team that has a 500 record. So I think the committee in that case would bring better playoff games. But how often do you have the instance that a 500 team wins their division? And
right, and we saw the Broncos. Remember when the Broncos and the Panthers went? The only real game that I've seen that was so uncompetitive, Carolina facing Arizona. And it wasn't because Arizona had they just ultimately weren't a better team at that time. Their record just was portrayed to be different.
Yeah, that's true.
And would you say that sorry, Toby.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Would you say the committee would be made up of the owners and Goodell will be chased out, though?
No, I would do a independent committee.
Mm-hmm.
None of the owners, nobody that is involved in anything in the NFL. Just independent committee. But yeah, I like I said, I'm not for changing it, so I also have my cons. And I think actually being the best team in your division should mean something. So you should be rewarded for it with a place in the playoffs. And yeah, if you have a weak division and you're a weak team, so be it. You play one game in the playoffs. But yeah, it doesn't really change much. Yeah, so we have one boring game, but there's always that underdog story that could be there. That one team that doesn't play well during the regular season makes it to the playoffs, and suddenly they flourish and can win games. And also, I think with a committee, we are seeing this in college football about, I think it's almost every season. You always have the conversation with that 5th team, if it's close between 4 and 5. Why did they select the number 4 team, and why is number 5 out of the playoffs? And I think with the way that the NFL does it right now, you have the 4 division winners in there, and after that, the 2 best records. You can justify that. Okay, the 2 teams that are in the wildcard round that didn't win their division have the best record, and the other 4 guys have won their division. It's justifiable and not just kind of a gut decision, I want to say, by a committee that you can't really follow why that team and not the other one.
Yeah, and Toby, to be completely honest, it always says the same thing. If you change it and you say, oh, the college football playoff is going to go from a 4 team to an 8 team, well, then why didn't the 9th team get in?
Yeah.
Then you change it to a 16 team. Why didn't the 17th team get in? It's the same thing all the time. We have the same problem with March Madness and NCAA basketball every year. It's always, why did this team get ranked this rather than this? But in the NFL, all the rankings make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember when the Dayton Flyers got screwed by the Syracuse Orange, and Michael was so mad?
Oh, dude, you and I had to leave because of that.
But one thing, like I said, I wouldn't change the playoffs in the NFL right now. But one thing that I would do right now is kind of reorder the divisions. So, for example, why are the Patriots in a division with the Dolphins, Jets, and Bills? They probably will be in the playoffs for the next 20 years.
My thing is, why are the Colts, who are in the northern hemisphere of the United States, in the AFC South?
Yeah, some of them don't make sense, and so I would be reshuffle the divisions, just put some different teams into the divisions, and it wouldn't just make for more exciting division races who makes it to the playoffs. It would also cut down on travel distances, which would also improve costs for a team and all that stuff, which was a problem. Or I think it was this offseason or last offseason. I'm not sure which one exactly it was. But there was a huge debate about it, that traveling costs and all that in the NFL are getting to a point that it is just too much even for big NFL teams. It was a debate for the international games. Why are we doing international games if we have to travel that far? But most of the travel distance is within the country. So why not reorder the division? You have 6 games or 3 games on the road in your division. Just put the teams closer together. I mean,
that would be the Colts would be in the AFC North then, if they were to redo it.
The Colts are really difficult because the AFC North, I think, with the I could see that with Pittsburgh. Yeah, I mean they are already Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Cleveland. They are already pretty close together. I think you put out Baltimore and put in Indianapolis. Put Baltimore in on the East with the Jets, Bills, and Patriots, and then put the Jaguars in the South. It would make more sense. So I think
it also would make more people go to games.
Yeah,
which has been an issue for NFL stadiums for the past 10 years because people don't want to go to games because, for one, their favorite team is too far away, and the travel cost, like you said, is an issue.
Yeah, it's not an issue with the playoff format. I think we just have to put different teams in different divisions. That's one thing that has to be done in the next coming years, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, now we talked about divisions, playoffs, but that's all hypothetical. Now we're going to the actual playoff picture. Right now, again, if you're watching on YouTube, you're gonna see the playoff picture for the AFC right now after week 11. Right now, in the number 1 seed are the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 2 seed are Pittsburgh. Number 3, New England. Number 4, Houston. Number 5, the LA Chargers. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. In the hunt right now are the Cincinnati Bengals, the Miami Dolphins, the Indianapolis Colts, the Tennessee Titans, and the Denver Broncos. It's really close in the AFC. It's a toss-up. The Baltimore Ravens have the same record as the Bengals and the Dolphins, if I'm correct.
The Bengals, the Baltimore Ravens, the Dolphins, and the Colts, and the Tennessee Titans all have the same record.
Yeah, it's just the Broncos that are behind 1 game right now. So it's really close for that second wild card. The Chargers are a little bit further ahead. I don't think that anybody can catch up with the Chargers right now. But yeah, I'm gonna start it off my projected playoff picture for the AFC right now. Number 1 through 5 with Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Houston, New England, and LA is gonna basically stay the same. Just Houston and New England are gonna switch places. New England just didn't look too good the last couple of weeks. I don't know how they're looking coming out of their bye week. Tom Brady wasn't really himself in the last couple of games. He kind of declined. I'm kind of curious to see how he performs after that bye week. And Houston, I don't know. They are ranked really low on most of the power rankings right now, being it ESPN, NFL, Fox Sports 1. I don't know. They are basically in the mid-pack of the NFL right now. I see them a lot higher right now. I see them around the Colts, actually, in my ranking, somewhere around the number 10 spot. So I think they're going ahead of the Patriots. But the Colts, for me, are the strongest teams out of the, wild card contenders right now. So they are getting the number 2 wild card. What are you guys doing right now?
I'm talking nice about our team. It caught our attention.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But yeah, the Colts, for me, are the definite favorite for the second wild card. They might actually be the team that might be able to catch up with the Chargers, but they might fall short by just a little bit in the end. Yeah, what are your guys' projected playoff pictures?
Yeah, quick AFC playoff picture, real quick. Kansas City is going to stay at number 1. I think we can all agree on that. For me, Pittsburgh, Texans, Chargers, New England will all be in the playoffs. They will all be in contention. I think those are all a toss-up. Those are going to move up and down a lot these upcoming weeks because of who's going to win, basically. It's all down to record. But again, I'm going to go with the Colts for the last AFC wildcard spot because I don't think – because here, let me say this. Denver's not going to make it. They have to face the Chiefs again. They have to face the Chargers again. I do believe the Chargers will beat them on the second time around. The Chiefs will beat them. And the Tennessee Titans aren't doing it. They're going to have to face the Texans twice. They have to face us again, which they will lose. The Dolphins are going to lose to us next week. I can promise you that. They have to face New England. They just haven't looked very good. The Bengals and the Ravens, that's just a toss-up. Because ultimately, if the Bengals and the Ravens playing each other, it's ultimately a matter of who's going to end up losing. And I think at this point it's between the AFC North two guys, the Bengals and the Ravens, and then there's the Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is pretty much going to go same as your guys. It's Kansas City 1, Steelers 2. Texans, I can actually jump the Patriots for that third spot. New England at 4. The first wild card spot, I got to give that one to the Colts because out of the other ones right there, there's that first week 1 loss to New England or Cincinnati, I should say. But the second spot is, hang on, let me get closer for this one. Free real estate. Anybody can have it. I think who's the last team to grab that, I think, is honestly the Ravens. I got to give it to the Ravens for that last wild card spot.
So you're staying with the actual playoff picture as it is right now.
Yeah, pretty much as it is right now. It's looking all right to me. Because, Lamar Jackson, he showed that he is mobile. He just needs to get good, I guess. Yeah,
he'll look pretty good out there.
That's what I was looking for the AFC.
Of course, that's the AFC, and we're gonna put up the NFC playoff picture as well. Number 1 right now with the win on Monday night against the Chiefs are the Los Angeles Rams. Number 2, the New Orleans Saints. Number 3, the Chicago Bears. Number 4, Washington Redskins. Number 5, Carolina Panthers. Number 6, Minnesota Vikings. In the hunt in the NFC right now are 6 teams compared to the AFC with 5 teams. In the NFC in the hunt right now are the Seattle Seahawks, the Dallas Cowboys, the Green Bay Packers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Detroit Lions, and the Philadelphia Eagles. It's all in order as they have tiebreakers and all that and their record in there. So my prediction right now as I'm starting this off again, my projection is that the Saints are going to get the number 1 spot. The only thing why the Rams are in that number 1 spot right now is that they haven't had their bye week yet. So they have a record of 10-1. The Saints have a record of 9-1. And, of course, the Saints have the tiebreaker with a winning game against the Rams a couple of weeks ago. So for me, the Saints are the number 1 seed in the NFC. Number 3 are the Chicago Bears. They just look too good on defense right now. And, of course, the NFC East, as we have discussed before, is kind of a mess right now. So I don't see anybody coming close to the record of the Chicago Bears right now. The NFC East, as I've said, the favorites right now are the Dallas Cowboys coming in at number 4. Number 5, the Carolina Panthers. And number 6, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting for a couple toss-ups on the wild card rounds. I agree with you. The Saints will keep the number 1 spot. The Rams will keep the number 2 spot. I do believe Chicago will keep its 3rd spot. I think that their defense ultimately just puts them in the best position to keep that record. I believe Carolina will stay in. I think Carolina, despite its recent struggles, will win a couple of games, and I think that they're just ultimately going to keep it by the record. Yeah. And like I said before, I think the Washington Redskins are out. It's a matter of who takes that spot. It could be the Seahawks, the Cowboys, the Green Bay Packers. Those are my 3 teams that I think have a shot.
Well, you still need the NFC East division winner.
Right, and I think it's ultimately going to be the that get in there.
So to clarify, because you cut out, he said it's the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep, Dallas Cowboys. And then Minnesota. That's a tough one. I do ultimately believe that the Minnesota Vikings will keep their spot, but it would not surprise me if the Seattle Seahawks were able to swoop in and get that spot.
Yeah, I think definitely the Saints should be number 1 because they beat the Rams in a head-to-head, and the Rams are going to move down to 2, followed by the Bears at 3, and then lastly I got the Cowboys as well at 4. With the wild card spot, I think the most deserving one right now is the Vikings with the first one, with the first wild card position. Yeah. And then the second one, I can kind of see the Panthers coming back from this one. I know they're 1-4 on the road, but I think once they get their act together, they could take that last spot. But then again, you got other outside competition from them. So I'd say, at least as from what I've seen right now, if Cam Newton can get his act together again, make smart decisions with throwing the ball, I honestly think they can make it with that last spot in the wild card position.
Yeah. All right, that's our predictions for the playoffs. Again, we're coming from further in the future to a little bit closer to the present right now. Now we're coming from the playoffs to our Week 12 predictions. I think we're gonna just do a quick fire round as this podcast went on for a little bit already. So just put out your predictions right here. Not too many explanations. Just make this a quick one. All right. First game are the Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions.
The Chicago Bears defense and the Bears dominate against the Lions.
Give me the Bears. No Kerryon Johnson as far as I know.
Yeah, same for me. Chicago defense is going to dominate again. Next game, of course, the classic at Thanksgiving right now. The Washington Redskins against the Dallas Cowboys.
Redskins are depleted. Cowboys are going crazy. Give me the Cowboys.
Well, I spent all this time talking about the Cowboys with you guys, so I got to take the Cowboys on Thursday.
Yeah, same for me. I'm just going to put one name out there. Colt McCoy. What is he going to do? Next game, Thursday night this week. Atlanta and New Orleans.
Who dat? Give me the Saints.
Give me the Saints as well.
Yeah, we're, again, all three of us picking the Saints. Atlanta really weak right now. Next one up, the duel in Ohio, Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals.
I think the Bengals bounce back this week. As much as I hate to say it, give me the Bengals.
All right, I'm going to say this for the first time in my life. Give me the Browns.
All right, I'm going with the Browns as well. I think Cincinnati is kind of weak right now, so Browns are pretty hot, so Browns. Next game up, San Francisco at Tampa Bay.
I had 49ers earlier, but I changed my mind with give me the Bucs.
Yeah, give me the Bucs as well.
All right, all three of us are going with the Bucs here. Me as well. San Francisco is just looking too weak right now. Next game up, Jacksonville at Buffalo.
Jags will bounce back after a terrible loss against Pittsburgh. They will beat the Bills.
Yeah, I gotta say the Jags. I think just the Steelers game shouldn't define their entire season. I think I got the Jags.
Yeah, same for me. Jacksonville looks like they are getting kind of their defense back, at least a little bit, and Buffalo is just, I don't know what they are good in right now, but clear win for Jacksonville for me. Next game up, Oakland Raiders at Baltimore Ravens.
Raiders were on an all-time high last week. Give me the Ravens.
Give me the Ravens. It's going to be an easy game for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, same for me. Oakland is just looking bad. Same reason as with Buffalo right now. Next game up, Seattle Seahawks at the Carolina Panthers.
Give me the Seahawks, who are fresh off a good win against Green Bay against the Panthers.
I think give me the Panthers on this one because I think they're going to definitely bounce back and close the gap on what they left in Detroit.
Yeah, I'm going with the Panthers as well. I think Cam Newton is angry that he lost that game, and he's going to let that anger out against Seattle, especially at home. Next game up, New England at the New York Jets.
Patriots.
Yeah, same for me. No further explanation.
That was quick.
No explanation needed there. And then New York Giants at Philadelphia.
I think the Eagles find a way to slow down the Giants and come back and try to save their season. Give me the Eagles.
Saquon Barkley and the Giants for the win. Give me the Giants.
Yeah, same for me. And I'm not so much sure that Saquon Barkley is going too much, but I think that OBJ is going to take advantage of the injuries in the secondary there. Yeah. But next game up, Arizona Cardinals at the LA Chargers.
Chargers will win this game.
Chargers. Give me the Chargers.
Yeah, going with the Chargers as well. Again, no explanation there needed. Next up, Miami Dolphins at Indianapolis.
And Colts Nation, get loud, get proud. Colts all the way.
Colts at home against the Dolphins team. Give me the Colts.
Yeah, Colts at home right now are just too strong. Next game, Pittsburgh Steelers at the Denver Broncos.
I think the Steelers keep going with their tremendous comeback win. Give me the Steelers.
Steel City all the way.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Steelers. That run by the Broncos with that lucky field goal at the end has to stop at some point, and Pittsburgh is on a roll right now. Steelers all the way.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday Night Football, Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings.
Toby, I know I said I was picking the Packers. Change my pick. I'm going with the Vikings.
Yeah, give me the Vikings as well. I just think that if you eliminate Rodgers out of the equation, the Packers have no chance.
Yeah, I think the same way, and Minnesota is a different team when they're playing at home. Minnesota for me. And Monday Night Football to finish it all off, the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans.
Texans will be 8-3 after this game.
Give me the Texans.
Yeah, same for me. Texans, Tennessee is... Yeah, they might bounce back after that game against the Colts, but Houston is a strong team, as I've said before. And that's our quick prediction segment for this week. And the podcast for this week is done. Thank you guys again for joining me. It was a real pleasure again.
Welcome.
I hope all you guys that are watching, listening to this podcast right now, you'll join us again next week. And yeah. We'll see you next week. But until then, bye.
Hit the like button to subscribe.